When we look at spelling, we have to remember that we're looking at an entire system of language, and that is orthography. You'll recall that orthography includes three different areas. First, there's morphology, and morphology is all about the building blocks of words. Every word has a base, and sometimes that base has prefixes added to the front, suffixes added to the end, and those two things, prefixes and suffixes, are referred to as affixes. Phonology is the sounds that we hear from the words and the letters or letter combinations that make up those sounds. So we call those letter combinations graphemes, and the sounds that we hear are phonemes. And lastly, we look at the etymology of words, and that's the story or the history of words. And today, as we look at three words that go together, we're going to talk a little bit about each of those parts. We're going to talk about where, there, and here today. All three of these words are considered adverbs of place, which means they talk about or refer to the place of things. Where are you? Oh, he is over there. I am right here. So they are connected in this theme of place. We're going to talk first about the word where. And today I'm using support from my friends at the High Frequency Word Project to help me explain these words to you. When we look at the word where, we can go back into the Old English spelling. And in fact, any of these words, where, when, what, in Old English would have actually been written with the H before the W. And it would have been pronounced that way. Where, I guess. Again, I don't speak Old English. But I want you to notice a couple of things. That the air part that we hear at the end is part of that Old English spelling. So we've maintained or kept the sound of the word over time, but the spelling has, of course, shifted slightly. You'll also notice that the W and the H have switched places, but we keep that H there, or we keep those letters there as part of that reference to the Old English spelling. Let's look at the word there. There has an interesting story with it, just like where did. I want to draw your attention to its Old English spelling. And first thing I want you to notice is this letter right here. This is not the letter P. In fact, in Old English, they had a different alphabet, and this alphabet letter was called thorn. So, audience, meet thorn. And interestingly enough, when the printing press was made, which was how we went from people recording books by hand, writing out copies of books by hand, to a machine that would do it instead, they didn't make a letter to print thorn. And what they ended up doing was using the letter Y in the beginning, but it was still pronounced with the TH sound. So that thorn makes a sound. So it's still saying there. It's just not with the same letters that we use now. So we have the TH sound. And again, notice like in the word where, we've got that air at the end. And so we have all the sounds there. They're just written with a few different letters this time around. The word there shares a root or a historical connection to the words the and that. We'll talk about those words at another time. When we look at the word here, when we go back in time into the Old English, we see her. Now, this is not the same as how we use the word her now. We're not talking about a female as a pronoun. In this time, in Old English time, we were talking about this place where one puts himself. So the meaning has stayed the same. That same Old English root of her is connected to the words he and her as we use now. But at this time, when people are saying her, they're talking about this place as opposed to a girl. Notice similarities here in spelling. Now, I'm going to come back to the three words together because when you've got them grouped together, I want you to notice something kind of cool. All of those words that are related have the word here inside of them. We are purposely doing this so that our brains can recognize the connection and the meaning of the words as we're reading them. I'm going to share with you something else that's really cool about these three words. All of these three words can build compound words. They might not be compound words that you're familiar with. Remember, a compound word is when two base words come together to form a new word. So the word whereas is an example of a compound word. The word thereby or therefore is an example of a compound word. All of these words can be used to build compound words. None of these words can have affixes attached to them to make new words. So we can't add a prefix or a suffix to these words. They are a solitary base. Remember, friends, please be curious about the words that you encounter. And if a word makes you stop and say, why is it spelt this way? That's the time to start investigating.